Bill, I must go to you because your piece in the Post is a stunner. You say that the president is propelling both the government and financial markets into crisis. Where are you getting this from?
Well, Steph, from a number of officials inside the White House, inside the administration, and veterans of this White House who are truly deeply concerned right now because of the president's erratic behavior this week. You have not only the government shutdown, where he has changed his position over several days now and seems to have been most influenced by conservative commentators like Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh to lean towards the shutdown here over the wall funding. But you also have the decision on Syria, which was made outside of the normal policy process, announced by tweet, surprising the military and leading ultimately to Jim Mattis's departure, which Peter was just talking about, and is something that has all of official Washington, but also capitals around the world truly rattled this morning, because Mattis was seen as a rock, as a safeguard, as a guardrail against some of the president's impulses when it comes to military action.
Wow, so the president got bullied by Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh. That's interesting. Rick, let's talk about the border wall funding. The president is saying if he doesn't get the money for the border wall, we could see a shutdown for a very long time. We understand that matters to the president. And as I said, he got bullied by some conservatives. But what is it going to do to the rest of the Republican Party? It was just a couple days ago that Mitch McConnell was saying we do not want a shutdown. It will not happen. And now look what his president is doing.
Look, today's December 21st. It's the darkest day of the year, and I think this is clearly the darkest day of the Trump administration.
Ooh, the winter solstice reference. Nice.
Look, shutdowns wouldn't be as big a deal. We've had dozens of them. But when it comes after the Mattis resignation, and it comes with the stock market losing 1,000 points, as alluded to earlier, and now there's a shutdown with no end in sight. And I do think the president is right. Remember, originally he wanted $25 billion for the wall.
No. Originally, he wanted Mexico to pay for
That's
the wall.
correct. Yeah, right. Correct. But I thought I heard Stephen Miller say Mexico did pay for it. Did I miss something?
Yeah, through the improvements in NAFTA 2.0. Please.
So Schumer was going to give him $20 billion for the wall in exchange for DACA.
Yes.
Now he's down to $5 billion. He will get zero because the Senate, there's no way the Senate is ever going to pass border wall funding. And so what the Republicans are going to have to end up doing, I think, is they're going to have to decide we've got to present the president with funding for the government to open it up. It won't include any border. It'll include de minimis border wall funding. And they're just going to have to override a veto. That's a high hurdle.
Can we just take a moment? $5 billion being de minimis. Imagine if $5 billion went to our public school system, went to teachers getting paid better. Imagine that. If you care about income inequality, stick your $5 billion there. Mark, I want to shift to James Mattis. What did you think about that resigning and that letter?
It's amazing. I don't know when that's ever happened before historically.
Never.
It hasn't.
It hasn't, right. So that's pretty scary. And now,
a cabinet member, not a Secretary of Defense.
Right, not Secretary of Defense. You know, for those who believe he was the adult in the room, although I've always had a lot of faith in that, because Trump is such a child, no matter who the adult is in the room. But I think that sends a very, very clear signal to those of us who are not in the base and who are not drinking the Kool-Aid that there is a very serious problem. This has been quite a week. The first day of Christmas, the Trump Foundation shuts down. The second day, we hear Flynn might be going to prison. The third day, sanctions lifted against Russia. On the fourth day, the Secretary of Defense, a possible government shutdown. The hits just keep on coming. To be honest, I had a guest on this morning, Max Bergman, who runs MoscowProject.org. And he brought up something that I didn't even think of, and we all might want to think about. We're coming up on Christmas. It's a slow news cycle. People going home from Washington. I think we better brace ourselves, because he's desperate. He may fire Mueller this Christmas. I think we need to be prepared for that.
And Matthew Whitaker might let him do it.
Yeah, because he's already said he's not listening to the ethics. They've told him, because the story came out at first, he shouldn't recuse. Then the facts came out. Oh, no. He was told that he should recuse. It doesn't look good. And now he's saying he's going to ignore that. I think we had better brace ourselves. We may not need to go anywhere else, you all, for Christmas. We may need to stick around here in case something happens.
You two can stick around. I'm not doing that. The president can have a lot. He cannot have my Christmas. Okay, Rick. It's clear that the president changed his tune yesterday on the continuing resolution when he got spanked around a little by Rush Limbaugh and Ann Coulter. Could he change his view on Syria? Because when I look over at Fox News, they're going with the same approach. Look what Brian Kilmeade said this morning.
He said President Obama is the founder of ISIS. He just refounded ISIS because they got 30,000 men there, and they're already striking back with our would-be evacuation. The president's got it. He's really on the griddle with this.
Brian, I have to respectfully and vehemently disagree with you. The idea that the president has had anything to do with helping ISIS reemerge is absolutely outrageous.
Leaving is helping.
You don't see Sarah Sanders and Brian Kilmeade disagree often. Do you think there could be enough backlash on Syria, whether it's Fox News or Jim Mattis, that could change the president's tune here?
I hope so. It's a very serious mistake.
Yeah, put hope aside. Be realistic.
He could. I mean, he'll figure out a way to do it. I mean, he's done that before. I don't think he's going to back down on the wall. But look, what we've done now in the Middle East is very serious. And I was in Qatar last week, and Qatar is leaning toward Russia and Iran. They've been cut off by the Saudis, which we are, great friends with. They've been cut off. Our flight path home was very interesting. Right across the Persian Gulf, all through Iran, across the Caspian Sea into Russia, and then Russia all the way to Estonia. Now normally a flight would go across Saudi Arabia and all through Europe, and then you'd be on your way home. So it's kind of, but there was the Iranian foreign minister was there. There was a pro-Russia propaganda panel, which was really unbelievable. And so it's just I share that as an anecdote because the world becomes a very dangerous and dark and bloody place. Because here's the point: in Syria, are the Russians going to rebuild Aleppo when there's peace in Syria, and there will be at some point? Do they have the resources to build? They don't. 40% of all their revenue from the government comes from oil. Oil is at what? I didn't check it today. It was around $50 a barrel. They don't have the resources to do this, and unfortunately, people don't like the United States. I don't agree with this whole idea of nation building. That's a big mistake. But without U.S. leadership, at the end of the World War II, we rebuilt all of our enemies, right? We rebuilt Italy, Japan, and Germany. Then we had to rebuild France and help the United Kingdom. We did all that, right? There's no analog to Russia. Russia was our ally during the World War. Which countries did they rebuild? Which ones are in the top 10 of GDP? None of them, but all of those countries have a bigger GDP than Russia. Russia has no resources. And for the first time, we've allowed Russia to since World War II, to actually hand them influence in the Middle East.
Are you listening to this? When we hear about how strong Russia is, please understand what a weak, itsy-bitsy, teeny-weeny economy they have. One of the main reasons Vladimir Putin desperately wanted President Trump to win is because of the sanctions placed on Russia were strangling, crippling their economy. Vladimir Putin didn't want Hillary Clinton to be in that seat and continue to have those sanctions there because he knew Trump was going to hook him up. He is not our economic equal, not by a long shot. And I'm going to take you to Atlantic City and show you what a place looks like after President Trump leaves it. Phil, I want to read a quote from your article yesterday. This is from a former senior administration official who speculated this. Yikes. There's going to be an intervention. Jim Mattis just sent a shot across the bow. He is the most credible member of the administration by 5 grades of magnitude. He is the steady, safe set of hands, and this letter is brutal. He quit because of the madness. So when I read that, I thought, wow, an intervention. This is a moment, except for the fact that 1, 2, 3, the 4 of us have had this exact conversation, fill in the blank with another name or another outburst over the last 2 years.
Yeah, Steph, that's a good point. I don't know if and when there's ever going to be an actual intervention the way we think of that term. But what this official was conveying, and by the way, it's been shared by other officials as well that we've been talking to, is that this is a real turning point for Trump. That he used to talk about his generals, and there were 3 people who were really seen as helping safeguard some of his decisions. John Kelly, former Marine Corps general, H.R. McMaster, the National Security Advisor advisor, a former general himself, and Jim Mattis, the former Marine Corps general. By February, all three of them are going to be gone. We don't know who the new defense secretary is going to be, but in the cases of the national security advisor and of the White House chief of staff, they've been replaced by people who are much more willing to sort of execute upon what the president wants, less willing to challenge him or confront him or restrain him in any way. And that's caused some concern among those who know this president best and who've worked for him and continue to work for him.
All right, we're going to leave it there. I just want to remind our audience, we showed a clip earlier of Sarah Sanders saying Vladimir Putin is not happy about what President Trump is doing in Syria. And Peter Alexander fact-checked that for us. I want to do it again. That's a straight-up lie. Do you know how we know it's a lie? Because Vladimir Putin himself told us.